Welcome to The Conscious Cut. I'm your host, Hoiki Liu. This podcast is all about rethinking sustainability across fashion, lifestyle, and everyday practices. Through conversations with entrepreneurs, policymakers, educators, and changemakers in Hong Kong and beyond, we'll explore real solutions, from industry-wide policies to the small habits we can all adopt. Let's cut through the noise and create meaningful change together. Welcome back to The Conscious Cut. Today we have with us Nassim from The Happy Space. Nassim to me is the Marie Kondo of Hong Kong. You can take her services home. Her and her team will sort you and your life and your space out. So I've invited her today because I think, not that I need you guys to know, but I think you guys need her services probably. Being in such a busy place, Hong Kong, I think more of us need to admit that we need our space sorted because, we all have helpers, but it doesn't equate to organization. Having a clean and organized space is so important for your sustainable journey also, because when you see things are laid out, you know where things that matter should go, and if they don't have a place to go, they probably don't matter. So you should cut that out of your life. Probably you just be less wasteful, more sustainable, and it's a great start to building daily habits and practice that you can live with. So without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself to us. But why don't you start off telling us what the Happy Space is?
Okay. Well, thank you, Hoiki, for having me. Excited to be here with you. So the Happy Space Co. is a business that I started more than 4 years ago, and it came after a 10-year career in law. So I used to be a disputes lawyer. It's what brought me to Hong Kong, and it was great. I really loved it, but I think it just wasn't what I wanted anymore. And so after a lot of soul searching, I decided to resign, and my resignation coincidentally happened when COVID hit. And so, and I did it without a plan. I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do next. And that was part of the reason I kind of stayed in it for so long, because I just kept thinking, once I figure out what plan B is, I'm out of here. And I never figured it out because I just didn't have the time or the headspace to. So I got out of there, kind of went into hibernation mode when the world went into hibernation mode as well. And it came out after that.
So it's actually, you're probably one of the first person to tell me that you just resigned from your existing career of that matter of years, and then you just resigned with no plan. So how did Happy Space come when you had no plan? Like, what brought you to Happy Space then?
So it was all just so natural. So I was, being my very kind of diligent type A lawyer self, and I'd kind of created these plans where I was going to research these different business ideas and different legal jobs. And so I was doing all of that. I kind of tried to have myself on a schedule. But then just very naturally, the very first thing I started doing was just organizing my life. So I was organizing my space. I just felt so behind in life. And, at that point I was already a mother, and, kids take up even more time, so you have even less free time than you probably ever had in your life. And so I was just trying to catch up on life and kind of catch my breath, because I was always feeling like I was barely keeping my head above water and only doing kind of the things that had to be done. And so I was organizing my home, my clothes, my just everything, and it came really, really easily. And I kept thinking, I was like, wow, why am I on just such like a purging mode? And I realized it was because I just finally purged and got rid of a career that kind of that I felt like wasn't serving me anymore. And that was such a difficult decision to make, because you have all these thoughts in your head of, oh gosh, I've invested so much time and so much money in my education, and I'm finally feeling like I know what I'm doing in my career, and so yeah, so it was just a matter of, okay, you know what, I kind of jumped over that hurdle, and everything else, like a top that I hadn't been wearing in years, was so easy in comparison. So I was doing that. I was on a bit of a roll, and I was doing it in every respect. And so I had a friend ask me one day, like, what are you doing with yourself? What's the plan? And I was like, there's no plan. I have no idea, but I am organizing my entire life. It's what I'm doing every day, and I couldn't be happier. I could do this every day. And that moment I was like, wait a second, maybe that is what I should do. So that's when I started looking into it as a business, and helping other women who were like me, kind of feeling like they were barely keeping their head above water with their careers and kids and life, to help them not feel that overwhelmed that I was always feeling.
Yeah. And that's why I started with saying I feel like a lot of people in Hong Kong will probably need your service, even without realizing it, because that's the thing. Most of us don't realizing it when we're just running in the cycle of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Waking up, getting into the grind, coming home, getting the rest you need as fast as possible. Like you don't want to go home and start purging and tidying up. Like you feel like with the little bit of time you have, you want to relax, right? But here's the thing. You don't really relax in a messy house.
No, you don't. No, and you're right. Like, I mean, there's something about Hong Kong especially. It's such an intense place, which is one of the reasons I love it. I feel like I am living the equivalent of 3 lives in Hong Kong, kind of all the things that you get to do in a day, right? You could be doing one random thing, and then an hour later you could be doing something completely different. That's the beauty.
Off your kids, and then you're going into popping in the office, and then you have a quick lunch meeting, then you can go to a workout.
Everything
is groceries.
Exactly. Everything is so fast here, and that's what kind of adds to the chaos, right? It's not a slow city by any means, and so there's a lot happening, and then also spaces are smaller. So regardless of who you are and how much space you have, it's always less than what it would be in any other city, any other country. And so those 2 elements alone, I think.
And I want to top that off is that, unlike we were saying Japan, where Marie Kondo is from, in that culture where a lot of people will be maybe more minimalistic, they live in a more structured, like more routines and structure. Hong Kong, we don't have that. We actually do a lot of things by impulse. I mean, we do have our organization, we do have our plans, but we throw in a lot of impulses in there. And there's just, we are a place where, I mean, I'm not proud of this, but we're a place where people want things. Yeah.
Yes. People like their things. We like our things, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody kind of has their thing, but that's exactly right. It's not a place where, because you don't have the space, you're going to kind of control your consumerism, right? You're like, no. we're gonna find a way.
We just need to find more ways to. So like, this is the rule I have at my home with my kids. Because I think by now, me and my husband, we've curbed ourselves. We know what our needs are. We know what we have.
Okay.
Being relatively organized, being able to see what we have, we know where to get what we need when we need it.
When you need it.
So, there's not a lot of replenishing things. And it's like, oh, I already have that there, and things like that. But with kids, they will forget, this is the next best thing. Everybody's talking about Naja now. I want Naja. But before that, it was Pokemon and then Beyblades. So many things adds up. So we only have so much space. And my rule for them is, we can only get you something else, or even birthday presents. We can only be open to people giving you presents if you have the space to put those things. So if you want something new, what are you going to get rid of first? Where are you going to find the space, right? So that concept has kind of been etched into them. And with that said, every time they want something new, they're looking at the space they have and, well, what can I get rid of? And they realize, I like everything that I have here. And it helps them think about, do I really need
exactly? Do I really need this other thing?
Yeah.
Is it worth giving up this other item? I think these are really, really great things for kids to think about and to be really kind of thoughtful and mindful about what they're consuming. Yeah.
But first they need to have that practice.
Totally. And it comes by example. I think it's seeing you guys do it is the best way for them to start learning these things.
Okay, but not everybody has that mindset. Like we know that, right? So for the clients that come to you now who do realize, oh, I need some structure or some organization in life, can you tell me like what was the triggering point to get them to realize they need this service? And then what is it that you do for them really?
Yeah, so I think it varies for certain clients and certain things. So I think the main theme is a lot of times there's some kind of transition. So, either there's like a new baby arriving. And so that tolerance of, what that spare room was looking like is now it's at a point where, okay, you have to deal with it. And so it's these certain kinds of transitional periods in their life that then force them, or somebody's moving, or but then there are also the people who it's that pain threshold. They just, and it could be like they couldn't, somebody was telling me they couldn't find their passports and they missed their flights. And that was like a big wake up call, like something needs to change. Or, it's just like stepping on that like toy head and you're like, that's it. We're doing something about this. So yeah, I think all of us have a certain tolerance level, and then we hit our max, and it could be like the smallest thing or missing a flight, and then you're like, that's it, I need to do something about this.
I mean, you give two really great examples just now. Missing a flight, that's a very personal wake-up call. But I guess there's also that mom that stepped on, another piece of Lego just one too damn many times, almost want to swear at her. It's happened to me quite a few times.
And I just want to
no more Legos, I was about to
done.
but yeah, usually it's a triggering point for somebody. It might not be a triggering point for everybody in the household, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? Like, I'm mad about the kids, but they don't care. Or, okay, a more serious issue is sometimes, have you ever heard of like a depression room? It's when someone's like, they're so mentally out and depressed that they can't cope with life. So they're living in a mess. A lot of times we're talking about like the hoarders and stuff. Sometimes it's also that. It gets to a point, and that's why I said earlier, like a messy space is not a relaxing place.
No.
Because it actually gives you a lot of anxiety.
It does, yeah.
You instead of seeing what you have, you realize it's all your problems piling on to you, right?
That's right. And they've done studies on this. I think for women especially, they see that they've done studies of how women respond to their environments. If they're disorganized and not tidy, their cortisol levels are higher. So yeah, it's actually, I see it. In my experience, I see that it's a two-way street. So you could be somebody who is dealing with depression and anxiety, and your home is a reflection of that because you just aren't in the headspace to organize it, to tidy it up. You kind of let things go. And then as things get worse, it makes you feel even worse. So it's this vicious cycle. And, our spaces really are a reflection of our inner state. It's 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 an extension of us, essentially, I think. Especially our more private spaces, I think, like our own bedrooms. And so when those aren't feeling right, then sometimes it's maybe a reflection of something brewing inside that isn't feeling good. And so for these clients, I've personally seen the impact it could have when we just, you know, just get through it, go through all the things, get it in, get it organized, take out what needs to come out of the home. They feel such relief. And for a lot of them, it's a really important part of their kind of recovery.
Yeah, I'm sure. And there's a lot of clarity seeing things open again.
There's so much clarity. I think even for, there are a lot of people who we organize, they might be business owners, they might be, they're just they're trying to figure something out. And when they've gotten that clarity in their space, it's something just kind of opens up mentally where they know what their next steps are. Or like the creative juices start flowing again. It's really incredible, I think.
Yeah, can you walk me through the process a little bit? Do you do the Marie Kondo thing that we see on Netflix? Like, let's throw everything in a pile, and
does it spark joy?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I've tried that method once.
Yeah, does it spark joy?
No.
Put everything in a pile?
Yeah, that gave me so much anxiety. And then I wanted to just leave the pile there. Well, my room's never looked like that before. I've never done this. Yeah,
I know.
So I guess it doesn't work for everybody. So I want to know, like, but how does it work? Because like we said, not everybody is like, oh, I know I need to do this. Some people are really reluctant. Like, why are you touching my things? You know, like, so how, what is your process?
So, I mean, the good thing is, by the time we've gotten there, we're working with somebody who wants us there, right? Which is important. So that's why when we're having conversations, I never want to push. I want to work with somebody who is mentally ready for it. It's not my job to convince you. You have to get there.
Right.
For some, we might be talking for a while, years.
Yeah.
There's some people I've talked to for years. Every now and then they kind of reach out again. And so there's something that clicks. And so by the time you make the effort to get the professional help, something has clicked within you. So that's like a great first step for sure. But yes, I 100% believe in taking things out. I don't think you need to take everything out all at once. That's just kind of disorienting, especially if you're doing it alone.
Yeah, it's really shocking, that moment. Like when you suddenly see everything out, but you're like, I do want all this stuff. Why did I pull it all out,
But I mean, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew, right? So for us, I view organizing in different steps. So I see decluttering as the first step, and usually I think it needs to happen before organizing, but I won't complicate it here. So you want to declutter, and I do think you can do that in little bits. The benefit of course, doing it with professional help is, we can just rip the Band-Aid off and do a lot. Yeah. But if you are doing it on your own, then you want to maybe try to do a little bit at a time. I mean, how many people do you know, or how many times have you done this yourself, right? Where you start and then you can't finish. It's just, it's too much. It's too overwhelming. You start off with all the best intentions, all the energy in the world. And I think that's where having somebody help you is really instrumental. So I say, we're like a personal trainer, except that we can also do the push-ups for you.
Yes.
So you can, if you wanted, just say, you know what, I can't deal with this. Kind of do it, do the organization for me. And then of course you have to be the one who decides ultimately what stays or goes. But there's a lot that can be done for you up until that point. Like, clothes of a certain size, like, can just be put aside for you to do a quick kind of look through and, try to decide quickly if you're going to get rid of it. So
What about larger pieces? Because I've seen you like, it's not just the clothing, right? A lot of times it's even whole pieces of furniture. Or I see people like are updating. I guess maybe their lifestyles or new marriages or mothers-in-law moving in or moving out, whatever.
Well, there's something that happens like once you get going and once you're like, okay, I don't like, this top, or I don't want this, or I've been unnecessarily holding on to this and that. Then you're like, I've been wanting to get rid of that couch, things just start flowing. And you should seize on it. And why not? I don't think we should be surrounded by things that we hate.
Are you guys ever stuck in an argument between like mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, or like, or even
husband and wife,
or children and parents? I was just gonna say maybe the dynamics are a little bit less because the parents probably obviously have more power there, or even employers and their helpers at home. If helpers are obviously less.
I mean, there are lots of different dynamics in play, right? You have people that have different styles. Like usually there'll be one person who's a bit more sentimental than another person. You have one person who really likes to keep things and the other one doesn't. And so the process has to feel good for everyone. It's not about, let's just get rid of everything. Let's turn you into minimalists. Not at all. And it's not fair to the person who's having a harder time letting go to kind of push them into doing more than they want to do. So it's about, I think, finding the right compromises, and for us to try to hone in on, what is truly important to each person, and to let them have it. I mean, everyone is different, and it might be things that you don't even expect. Like we had a client once who loved his cables and wires. Like they just gave him joy. And so we organized it and we made like a really lovely cable and wire drawer that I think just made him feel good to have.
That's great.
I don't think he really used it, but he felt good. And ultimately,
and it's organized.
Exactly. It's organized. It's ready to be used. So why not? Just like women like their shoes, or they like their bags, or, those are kind of some of the more stereotypical things.
And that was the thing I was going to say. I'm sure like this kind of organizing, you're almost there to help resolve some family conflicts, and you're there to help improve the relationships, like recognizing what each person's needs are and how much space you get for that. The
whole thing is it's actually deeply psychological. Even if it's just one individual, there may be shame, there may be guilt, there may be there's just so many different things at play, and then you add more human beings and their dynamics with each other, and so it does get more complex. But it's what can we do to cut through this for everybody to feel good and to get things in a place in a way that works. And so for some people it means we're going to keep it. Fine, let's keep it. Let's have a nice container for it. Let's put it somewhere where it's, not taking up kind of precious real estate in the home, and they feel good that it's still there. And then maybe the other person feels good that it can't be seen, and that can be the compromise and the best next step. And maybe in a few months that person can revisit whether they're okay to let it go. Sometimes people need to do things in stages.
That's true. The other thing is, how often are these clients of more yours usually like you go on once and it's good, or is there repeated visits?
I think so. For a lot of people, they need help creating the framework. And so we're setting up the systems, we're setting up the framework. And a system is not just, oh, here are a few containers, I've labeled them for you, make sure this goes in there. It's really thinking through the strengths and weaknesses of everyone in the family, not going too far against the grain, and coming up with solutions that then can be maintained. And so designing the system and then having a plan in place for the habits that go with that system so that it can be maintained on its own. And so most of our clients, we'll check in with them 6 months later, a year later, even 2 years later. How is everything? And they're like, it's great. It's working beautifully. And they just, either didn't have the time, they weren't sure how to do it. But as long as they're in that space, in that home, it's totally fine. They just, with a little bit of maintenance, it works really well. And that's ultimately our goal. I want to work myself out of a job, basically. I want to arm you with the skills and with the framework that is going to work long term. And it will need some maintenance. It needs some upkeep, right? If we're never decluttering, if we're never kind of putting things back where they belong. But it's not just, okay, now put them back here. It's a bit more thoughtful. Mm-hmm. Let's, maybe every Tuesday morning, there could be a reset for this space, especially for kids' spaces. You really need this upkeep, but it's so much easier when the framework is there.
Yeah. I think the kids thing is also difficult because they grow out of things so quickly, which brings me to my next part is, I want to ask, is there a overall, when you look at, because you've done so much decluttering for so many families now, right? Is there something by now you can actually advise people like, this is something that everybody throws out. You all have this at home stuck somewhere and nobody actually wants it. Don't get it.
That's a really interesting question. Here's what I'll say to that. Gifts. When you're gifting something to someone, I would say really think about whether it's something that they like, especially decorative pieces. And it becomes such a heartache for people because they're like, this is from a really dear friend, or this is from somebody who will often even visit me. And maybe, maybe they'll ask about it, or gifts from in-laws. That's a really difficult one for people, but it's usually things that were bought for them.
Okay.
And so it's something that I reflect on a lot when I'm giving gifts. And so, and then what usually happens, and everybody does this, is people then regift. Yeah. So then the cycle continues and people are just passing on this stuff that no one is ever going to use, but it's this kind of social obligation of giving something. So yeah, I would say that's kind of a reoccurring theme, is kind of these random things that people were gifted and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with this, but it was such a lovely gesture.
I've been very careful about giving gifts because of exactly what you said. And because I am so worried about people giving me things that I don't want, I actually now my go-to is just bring something to eat.
Yes.
Can I bring something from like the party? Like, do you need drinks? Do you need some food? Like, is it a potluck?
And more so to eat, not even drink, right? Because even like wine, liquor, like that, that piles up too. And then people feel silly about decluttering that. Like, it doesn't go bad, but I don't ever drink. And it's like, well,
and people don't realize, actually, when I'm always saying fashion is the second most polluting industry in the world, food waste is number one.
Oh, food. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And I assume a lot of people will have this issue because I was telling you earlier, my whole house, I like, very honestly, I don't need your service at my place, but in my kitchen.
Okay.
My kitchen is horrible because like, I was like, my cupboards need to match the depths of the console table on top, so everything is so deep, and I never reach it. Right,
most of them are deep. Yeah,
most of my and my husband knows this. A lot of times on our day off on Sunday, when I'm the one to be in the kitchen making breakfast,
When your
making
helpers and around, yeah.
oh my God, I have so much anxiety, and I
have
start
to
cleaning out
find,
the
yeah.
kitchen, and I find so many expired food.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest, like, why do we have so much expired food? You know, like expired noodles,
Yeah.
like expired dried food. Like,
Yeah.
it just makes no sense. But
You're not
because you don't
alone.
see it. Yeah.
You're not alone. It's so common. And I think my team loves doing kitchens because in a way it's really easy. You don't just, you're just kind of looking at expiration dates. Oh, they can be really hard to find, but it's it's like a no-brainer, right? There is so much expired food, always, always. And it's just because we're busy and we don't always look at those things. And so it's really, really common. You're right. And a lot of clients will actually complain about the food in the fridge.
Yes.
And how or like multiple containers are getting opened of the same thing, or they're overbuying. And so that's why I love organization for kitchens. I think it's so useful in stopping food waste, just making grocery shopping so much easier. And I think most of us we're not just shopping from one place, right? We're shopping online from multiple places, and then we're doing it at the store, or our helpers are doing it.
Multiple people are doing it.
Multiple people are doing it. We're doing it from multiple places. It's, you're ordering this type of thing from this place. Maybe you're having a protein powder, your kids' snacks, everything is from different places. And then how many times have you, started clicking through, you do like an iHerb order, and then you're like, oh, I just like forgot this one or two things, and then you don't want to do another order. So organization in the kitchen is so useful for daily life and for not wasting, knowing what you have, using what you have.
I think using what you have is very important.
It really is. And so in your case, it might be getting a container that works, labeling things, because sometimes it's hard to remember where things are. Even figuring out what categories you have within a kitchen is difficult. Like, how do you categorize this? But once that is figured out, then you know exactly where, tomato sauces go, and you could just quickly go and check if you have enough.
Yeah.
And then you're good. You don't need to go buy 6 more cans because you don't want to be in a bind on Sunday.
Yes. And then, but the next time when you actually look for it and take it out, it's all expired.
Yes, exactly. So having these systems in place and the habits that go with that system. So, saying it could be the first of the month, our helper, like on the first of the month, will go and check all the expiration dates. Anything that is about to expire kind of moves forward. Or, there are lots of different systems that you can put in place. Or if you are a household that eats a lot of like pastas, having the open ones in a certain spot, and
because sometimes you go back and you find like 2 packs of open spaghetti and they just don't add up.
Yes, exactly. Or you're mixing different kinds of pasta, which is like a sin according to my Italian husband.
Okay, so now that we've gone on to talk about the stuff that they're getting rid of, I'm sure there's a lot of it. What do you do with the things that people don't want anymore?
So I think, what happens a lot of times is people feel the pressure to maybe downgrade their items. So it might feel like a sustainable practice, like, oh, this is a top that I wore outside. It has a little stain. I'll just wear it at home now. I don't believe in that at all. Like, I'm very much against it. I think, first of all, you probably won't wear it at home if you're not kind of in the habit of it. And second of all, if you're not going to wear it out, then why wear it at home for yourself, right? It needs to feel good for you, right? Regardless of whether other people see it or not. And so there's this bit of a dilemma, right? Where, like, for us, a successful decluttering session is getting rid of more, but then for a lot of people that feels wasteful, so they want to try to find ways to reuse or repurpose. And ultimately, I think it just creates a heavier load. It's another to-do item. It's another. And so part of what I want to do is try to find the right part of what I want to do is try to find the right thing to do with those items. So, okay, let's just donate it. I think a lot of people like to resell items, and that's an honest conversation that I like to have with clients, because I think frankly, for most things, it's not worth the energy, the time that it takes to post. And so it's trying to find kind of smart shortcuts. Is there a school that these could be donated to, or is there like somebody in your family that would use it, and not to just pawn things off on other people, right? Because that happens a lot, but to really come up with a solution that is effective but quick, and not, involving, I'm going to sand this down and paint it, and some people are will definitely do that, but for most people it's not going to happen. And so it's finding realistic things that we can do.
I think in Hong Kong it's hard to expect that out of a lot of people that live in cities with a regular day-to-day job, because like the reason they got here in the first place is because they didn't feel like they had that time and capacity. So to expect them
to all of a sudden gain that time and capacity, exactly,
it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. I have a really, really practical approach. And so it's, it's totally fine to resell things. Let's do it. And there are like great platforms out there to help.
I've even seen you do it on your own Instagram with large furniture pieces. And there's a few times where I was like, oh, yeah, but I was like, but do I actually have the space?
Yeah. So, and so that's one of the kind of quick, easy solutions is we'll try to just post it on our stories. We also have a WhatsApp group.
Oh, right.
And we'll just post it on there. And most of the time it's not for free, because we want people to want it. And some people are kind of lured by the fact that something is free, but we want somebody to come get it who is going to pay like 100 Hong Kong dollars, or 500 Hong Kong dollars for something that might have been worth 50,000 Hong Kong dollars. But the point is like rehoming, and I love that. I get such satisfaction from things getting rehomed, and I'll often get pictures from people who have gotten the items. And even for donations, so when we're donating, we just take it with us immediately and get it donated. We will not leave it in your house. First of all, we don't want to add to your to-do list. Second of all, there's always the risk of somebody
pulling things back out,
poking back in there and pulling things back out. And so we get it donated for you, but to also be very thoughtful about the way we donate. So there might be things that we're donating and they come in multiple pieces. So putting in a little bit of effort to tie them all up in a bag. And if there's like instructions, maybe just stick the instructions in there. Again, it's just finding that right balance of practicality and usefulness, right? And so making sure we're not just kind of that we're donating in a respectful way. And then there's some things that is a bit borderline, and it's like, unfortunately, I don't think somebody can reuse this, so let's not.
Like the puzzle that's missing two pieces.
Yes.
It's like, oh, well, is the kid that's gonna get it gonna be happy or sad about this? If it's really disrespectful,
totally. I don't want to frustrate a poor child that is so excited to get this like Paw Patrol puzzle, and it's missing the pieces. So what do we do if on the box it says a 30-piece puzzle? We don't sit there and try to make the puzzle to see if something's missing. We just quickly count the pieces, and then there are only 28 here. It's a 30-piece puzzle. So unfortunately, that can't be used.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the saying, wish wish cycling, which is like when you recycle something, you don't know what's happening to it or where it's gonna go. You just wish that it's actually going to go where it should go. Same thing with donations. A lot of times I think we're wish donating. Like we feel so good about giving things away, but you don't think about like who's actually gonna get it. Do they actually want it? You know, is it respectful for you to give, you know, certain things away, like we said, like toys with missing pieces, you know, clothes with stains that you can't remove, right? So I think we do need to be very realistic about that. Now, bringing it back is when the clients see what you guys are taking all these things away, do they realize the work that you guys still have to do when you leave with their things that they don't no longer want? Or do they think, oh, it's great, you're gonna donate everything for us and I can go on a new cycle of consumerism now? Or is it like, look guys, like this is what, you know, because it's part of the habit building and practice, right? Like this is what we've achieved, like this is all the things that we're saying goodbye to. And you know, how do you, I guess, how do I even put this? Like, what is their thought process? Are they like, oh, great, I'm going to live more sustainably now? Because without us even using that word, it's just a natural lifestyle change that was needed. That's why you were called in to begin with. Or is it like, oh, great, you know, I'm getting all of my stuff. Like, let's buy again.
I would say, so there, we don't discuss sustainability. I don't see my role as kind of schooling anybody. I just find that a bit judgmental and
I think counterproductive with what you're doing already. That's exactly it. Call it out. That's
exactly. So I never do that. I think I want to be really encouraging of people engaging in the process and taking these steps to feel better about their space, feel better about themselves. So there's never this kind of like, what are our lessons learned? No, but a very, very natural byproduct of what we do, and you can just see it in their faces, is this realization. And for everybody, it's different, but there is a realization of, okay, I bought a few too many things, or, you know, I should be a bit more kind of mindful about this. And so it is a very slow kind of, I think, quiet realization. And then for others, it might be a bit heavier where they really feel badly about it. And what I say to that is we have to be forward looking here. It's not wasteful today where we're taking the items for donation, or, you know, we're trashing some items, or, you know, recycling some items. The waste happened at the moment of purchase, when you bought something that you thought you were going to use and you never ended up using, or you bought too much. That's when it happened. So let's not carry that burden on what's happening today. Today we are lightening the load, and then we just want to take a lesson from that, right? And just be looking forward. And a lot of it just happens very, very organically.
Is there also things that people like you have to get rid of because like there is missing pieces or things, but then they actually really like this puzzle, for example, or they really like the certain a dress, but now it's missing some buttons or missing a belt or something like that. Like, is there things like that happen, or is it usually like the things that they're getting rid of is what they absolutely don't?
No. There's, well, so those kinds of things come up all the time. And so a part of what we do is, well, we could just change all of the buttons, and, you know, and then they might be like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Oh, that's a good idea. And then they have to then think, okay, is the cost of changing these buttons something that I want to invest in? Is this piece important enough for me?
Right.
And then they make the decision then. And then there are a lot of us, you know, we have sentimental things. So yeah, it might be a puzzle that's missing pieces, but it was something that was maybe passed down in the family and we want to keep. And so we can keep it, but we put it in a nice, like, sentimental box or in a memorabilia box, and we keep it. And then now you have a designated place to put those sorts of things.
I guess it helps people recognize like things will deteriorate, they will break, like things that matter to you. You should be organized about it, because when you're neat and tidy, the longevity of these things it's just gonna last longer. Probably.
Totally. There are these very practical elements of, oh, there were, bags that were stuffed at the back of my wardrobe, and they've gone moldy because I didn't even remember that they were there. And so you are going to preserve your things better if your space is organized, if your things are accessible, visible, then you're going to use it. And that ultimately, like, what is more sustainable than that? Consuming and using the things that you have purchased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's see. I want to ask you. Oh, I do want to talk about one more thing, actually, when we're talking about decluttering and the things that you donate. I remember there was one time you hosted a secondhand sale in Tycoon. So that was a very, I assume those things were all from your customers. Did you collect them for them for a period of time, and then you host it as an annual thing, or what was that all about?
So kind of going back to this idea of where does this stuff go, right? And wanting to be practical about it, and just very kind of realistic about the approach. So there are lots of things that you can donate, but then there's certain things that just don't make sense to donate. And so for a lot of clients, it's really great pieces that are almost new. And so, we work with a lot of secondhand platforms like Hula, but even these guys are getting completely bombarded with stock. And so, normally I would just go to them and say, can we sell these items with you? And they can't take so much of it. So then I thought, okay, let me try to organize something. And so I was kind of doing it one off, and then we just had so much that I thought, all right, let's organize a sale. And that was really fun. We had we sold a lot of great pieces, and we're still doing it. It's going to be an ongoing thing, because there is this problem, right? Of where does this stuff go? And so if you price it well, but people are still paying for it, they're paying for something that they still love, they're still being thoughtful about it, trying it on. Is this something I'm going to wear, something I'm going to use? But then they feel great because they're getting it at such a deal. So it's a win-win. And then our clients feel good because they are getting a little bit back for it, but then it's getting rehomed and it's being done in a really thoughtful
feeling that it's no longer a wish donation, but like it actually got cycled back into somebody's life cycle.
Exactly. And then there are people who will send me pictures of them using the pieces, and it's just, I don't know, it's such a great feeling to see that, right? And they're so excited. So it's great. It's part of this ecosystem of ours, right? I mean, I would love to be able to match people and kind of rehome things, and we do that. I mean, and
I think it's been harder for Hong Kong to pick up, but like it's actually going to be part of my future segments, talking about more secondhand buying and reusing and sharing, even sharing platforms. But I think it's something that it's definitely something that it's going to be around for the future, secondhand shopping.
I think so. And I think there's a little bit of shame tied to it. And there's also a little bit of shame tied to people using professional organizers. So, it's very interesting, but I don't think there should be any. I think it's great to buy secondhand. If it's something you love that you would, purchase at full price, like, truly use.
And I think this is what a lot of like what we're doing and this generation is about, is breaking the old cycles of the way we see things, the way we saw shame, the way we saw success even. It's not necessarily what we need going forward.
Totally. I think especially when it comes to getting help for doing something like this. For a lot of people, they think, well, it's so simple. I should be able to do this on my own. And there is a lot of social pressure.
Yeah.
That, oh, well, just, just whip it up, just organize it yourself, just declutter yourself. And I think that, delegating, outsourcing, you're going to get it done faster. You're going to get it done better. And instead of agonizing for months and months and months and living in this way, trying to convince yourself that it's okay to get help, you just get it done.
Yeah.
And you're living in a really peaceful home.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily even just when you live with other people and families. I find often it might be actually when you're living alone, because you don't have anybody else that you need to answer to about your home. So you can really let that anxiety grow. I almost feel like it's when I got married that me and my husband got more organized, because we have to be respectful towards each other, right? So yeah, I think for anybody and everybody, like, really think about it. If you need someone to help clear your space so you can clear your mind, please get that done. I'm going to share your handles and your contacts at the end of this podcast. And also, I'm going to need to ask you to update us when you have those secondhand sales so I can promote it to our customers.
Okay, sure. Definitely.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you.